Welcome to the Life Curation Podcast. I'm your host, Andrina Tisi. Together, we will explore thoughts, inspirations, and conversations that feed our soul, spark the mind, and nourish the body. Thank you so much for being here to learn and grow, and for walking this journey called life with me. I'm so happy you're here for another episode of the Life Curation Podcast. And today I have the honor to share a conversation with Sandy Kaufmann. And Sandy is a certified life coach and helps women who are single to understand why they can't find the love they're yearning for and how they can change this. So definitely anybody can relate to this because I think we've all been in this situation. And Sandy, like many of us, experienced love affairs that did not go well. She was accumulating experiences with men who didn't want to commit and were cheating on her. She tried to change her behavior. She tried several methods, including psychotherapy, reading a lot of self-help books, but she still kept repeating the same patterns. Until one day she found the approach that transformed her love life. And in our conversation, she shares her method and tools and tips how to let love into our life again and to gain more emotional serenity, whatever the external circumstances may be. The healing method she uses consists of the strong belief that healing goes through the physical body first. And I love that. And many of you know that also is my approach, especially with EFT, and also in terms of my education I'm doing right now with somatic experiencing. And of course, in yoga, we see that as well. Sandy and I talk about self-love, and Sandy shares what she understands under this very popular idea. We also talk about patterns, programming, past wounding, and how we can change these to stop repeating what makes us suffer. And before we hop over to the interview, I do have to say that I have construction outside of my window. And if you hear some funky background noise, it's that. But I wish you lots of fun and lots of inspiration listening into the conversation. Thank you for being here. Hi, Sandy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, Andrea. And you?
I'm good too. Thank you. I'm really excited to have you on the Life Curation Podcast. So thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I have 3 questions for you right at the beginning, just kind of fun questions that I ask my guests, and I just switched them around a little bit. So they're new questions, and you can just answer completely out of the belly, out of the belly and out of the heart. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
I would say right now to travel wherever you want with just a finger like this.
Beautiful. What is always in your fridge?
Apple.
Yes, nice. Do you have a favorite apple?
I like the Braunbrünn. A bit, acid. I like.
Acid, yes, a little sour. Yeah, cool. Which book is currently on your bedside table?
The Power of Vulnerability. It's a French book from Camille Sves.
Very nice. And I love, because I'm asking my guests now what books they have on their nightstand, and we're going to have a beautiful library of amazing books in a few months. So our topic today is love. And love finding us or we finding love. And I would actually like to start with self-love. And I know that's a big topic for you and in your work. And just to get us kind of set up on that way, what is self-love for you? Like, what does it mean for you? And why is it so important?
It's a very good question, because actually I was asking myself that for a long time, because it's quite a fashion word, you have to love yourself, and sometimes you don't know if you have to take a bath, and sometimes you think, okay, I should have boundaries. And for me, the summary of that is it's actually a healing process towards the relationship with you. And this relationship could be only with yourself or among others. Because I think you have different stages of self-love. You can have a pretty good relationship with yourself. And this, I like to say, it's a process, because it's not always the same level. Sometimes it goes down, sometimes it go up. So it needs care. And then the second stage is, how can you be you and be there for you also among others? And this stage, I think you have to start by yourself, with yourself. And then when you feel ready, you can increase that by feeling and being yourself among with others. And here, I think our body shows also the way or what we can do to fill our cup of self-love.
And how do we, or maybe how do you feel it, or how do you see it with your clients? How do we feel that in our body?
So it's not feeling about the body, but let's say your body is the materialization of all your thoughts and all your behaviors. So how your body look like is a very good indicator where is the lack.
Interesting, yeah.
And I also see it for me. I try to be very aware how my body evolves, because I see then where I miss a bit of a good relationship with myself, and then I go backward, because I think we have always good routines or way to have a relationship to ourselves, but it doesn't mean that we need that at that moment. Sometimes we need something else, and here our body can teach us what is that we have to do.
Yeah, and I think it's also because it also changes, over, it can be different every day, and like especially over years, right? Like it's not going to be the same, so it's a constant exploration in a way.
Yes, exactly.
And staying open.
Yes, but it's a bit like a conversation with yourself. Your body tell you hints all the time, and if you listen to them, it can guide you even more that our head is thinking.
Yeah, I think it's such a fascinating approach, and I know we're going to go a little bit deeper into that. But it's also, I mean, of course, for me, with yoga and also EFT, and I just started my somatic experience certification, which of course is also so connected, right? And it's so wonderful what we can actually learn from our body.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to us to then see it and hear it and listen to it.
Yeah, and I think it's, this knowledge is free from any interpretation of our head. So it's like a raw information we can access to, and that could be really inner guidance for us.
And can you talk to us a little bit about patterns? And I think our body can probably also teach us about these patterns, but I'm sure you're going to tell us about that, as well as programming and patterns and programming. And they already say it, that's not just one time, right? They keep repeating themselves. And the dynamic of that and why that is.
Yes. So this is absolutely my favorite topic. Thanks for asking that.
Of course.
Because I was repeating the same pattern a lot of time. And I realized actually that only being conscious of what I was repeating, so with my head, was not enough. I was conscious about that. In love, I was always having the pattern of a guy going to another woman, and then it was working with the other woman. That was the worst. And and I was really trying with my mind to solve that and to understand, okay, what was maybe the behavior I could change on my side, or did I make the wrong choice? Should I be a bit more strong? Should I be more easygoing? Should I choose differently my partner? So I really tried to solve everything with my head, and I was still repeating the same pattern. And for me, it was pretty obvious from where it could come from. Mm-hmm. So my parents, they get divorced. I was 3.5, and it was quite violent. So I was not having, let's say, a very positive image of couples and being happy and whatever. So I knew there is a relationship to that, but to what extent and how, it was not so obvious. And for me, everything became clear when I discovered the method I am using now that explained me how it works. And I realized that I was trying to solve with my rational mind something that was saved in your lizard brain and in your body. So I was not working on the place where the trauma or the programming or the past wounding happens.
Yeah. And then through the method and how, and I mean, you know, there's always different things that, you know, come into our beautiful basket that we learn. How did you come to the origin to know which knot needs to be kind of untangled?
So it was a kind of lot of trial and errors, because I first tried to work on the most obvious pattern I was repeating. So for me, it was the betrayal pattern. This was the most obvious one. And here in the methodology I'm using, we ask questions and we go through your chains of emotion, and we go back into the past to identify which event create this trauma. And here it doesn't have to be the conscious thing you think it is. So how does it work actually? So every time you had a stress reaction to something, your rational mind is switched off.
Yeah.
And then your lizard brain has to find a way to react to that situation. And the situation can be for a child something as, let's say, easy as, oh, okay, I take your toy and the child is crying. But for a child, it's a kind of trauma.
Yeah.
For an adult, it doesn't see it like this, but for a child, it's like this. And then the lizard brain will decide, okay, in this situation, either I fight, either I fly, so I go away, or I think it's the end and I freeze totally. And these are the three most change. I'm sure you're aware of these ones. And then the lizard brain at the end of the event, he will decide, he will think, okay, in that kind of situation in love or in other situation, if I react like this, I survived. Very good. So I have accomplished my mission. I will save it. So the next time a similar situation happened, I don't have to think through again. I will propose the same reaction pattern. And this will be repeated, and there is some patterns that will be more repeated than others. And with the time, a part of the memory will be delegated to your body, to your organs, so you can react more efficiently. And with the time, you might feel that the pattern is becoming more and more and stronger, because every time the reaction of the body, it needs to have more hormones secreted to react. Mm-hmm. So if I speak about my personal example, the first time I had this betrayal, I was sad. Of course, I was missing my relationship and everything, but at the end, I was emotionally okay. But the more I was repeating, the more the anxiety. I didn't even started a relationship. I was already afraid of the betrayal. And on the body level, I could feel like a stone in my belly, anxiousness in my chest, really like constraining like this, because the pattern was more and more strong in my body.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that, you know, the more the pattern gets repeated, the more it gets repeated. You know what I mean? And that's the vicious circle, right? Yes. Which is then so hard to get out of, mm-hmm. right? So tell us a little bit more of and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, psychocorporal approach? Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, tell us a little bit more how you would approach, you know, also work with a client, or how you experience on yourself, like, you know, with maybe also like examples or whatever, how it works. Maybe you can tell us a little bit.
Yes. So the first thing is actually to see the result in your life, mm-hmm. because this will show which patterns you have, and it is important to identify all of them in order to see a change in your life. So in my case, for love, I will basically ask you, how do you handle all your relationships? Could be love, past love relationship, but also friendships, at work. It could be also in your childhood with your parents. How did you see your parents? So really, let's say, taking stock of all your relationship experience, which could also explain which way you attach or which way you bound to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And once we see that, I also classify the beliefs, because I think not every patterns that we repeat have the same, let's say, importance. So to give you an example, the way you are born has a very important weight on how do you feel entitled to take your space in life, but also in your relationships. And this is kind of
the actual birthing.
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes. Or also the conception. Yes. Let's say if you are a woman and your parents wanted a boy, mm-hmm. this can have in love a huge impact. So you might think, okay, my partner is a man, so he's kind of superior to me because my parents wanted a boy.
So interesting, huh? Yeah.
So and it then it will show you can see it that in the analyzing the way the person then behave with her partner. So it's also the perception of a person. So the same event could generate something to somebody and a totally different reaction to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. So then you start to identify these different, gonna say, histories or memories, or and I think, or I guess some things we don't even know, right?
Yes. So that's once you see the results and you see the way the person attach or not, then we deep dive into the past to really find out which was the first event who generate that. So I don't do it like in hypnosis where the person is unconscious, because I try to see the organ trigger.
Okay.
So I ask about event and we go back into the past, and the person is in reaction with the body. So it helps me with question to identify which was the first moment. And then at that moment, the person understand a bit more the way she's reacting, because she will describe it, I was crying, or I said nothing, or whatever. And then she understand more why she's acting this way in some situation. Because sometimes on the rational mind, you want to act in a mindful way, open way, and then you don't understand, you are exploding like a volcano, and you say, but why that? And this finding this event explain you a lot on the way you see that, and also the how it impacts also other aspects of your life. If I give you an example, I had a client, she had the betrayal wound as me, but for her, it came from a totally different experience than me. So for me, it came more for men are dangerous. My experience was that. And for her, she saw her mother coming back from the hospital, and she has lost a baby in the belly. And for her, she was not betrayed by men. She was betrayed by life.
Okay. Yeah.
And this, she understood that she was not only not having hopes with love, but in general.
Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm.
And once we find this event, it gives me a bit of an idea which organs saved these patterns. So then I will do the unprogramming on a massage table. The person remember the event, and then you see the organs reacting. And it's often very surprising to see how one organ can be really tense.
And you feel it. You feel it on the body. You feel the organ on the body. Wow.
Yes, it's like manual osteopathy.
Yeah. Okay.
And you see either the organs really making a fist like this.
Yeah.
And the person on the table, she feels it, or the organ a bit like escaping.
Yes.
So making himself very little.
Yeah.
And here you have to a bit blocking him so he's not going away.
Yeah.
And after a while, after the body feel secure, he release these triggers in the organs, and you really feel the releasing aspect. And then the next step that is important, because the lizard brain is always saving patterns.
Yes.
So we will then suggest to this lizard brain and the body a new way to react in this situation of stress.
Yeah.
So this way, he will not again decide for you, you decide how you want to act. And then what does it do? Afterwards, you have your rational mind and you have your lizard brain like working together. And so you can act more on what you consciously decide, and you're less triggered by your past.
Beautiful.
I love this part is for me, it's the magical. I spent a full day with my clients about that, because after working on the biggest pattern, I have a second massage that helps to take out of the body all the emotion that you stock because it was too hard, the shock. If you lose somebody, if you had a very hard breakup, if you had a very hard birth, your body try always to save your life. And if he sees you cannot handle it, he will stop it.
And is it also, let's say somebody has like chronic pain or something very repeated, can you, because now we've talked about coming pretty much from the pattern or the programming or the memory or whatever had the trauma, whatever happened, and see what happened and see how the body reacts. But can we go and look at the body and not knowing why we have this pain, and then figure out where it comes from? So the other way around?
In my methodology, no. So we cannot break the pattern like this. But with a other massage, we can a bit help to take it out. So what is stuck, and then to see if the body is then healing by himself because he has, let's say, a healing power, increased healing power. But this, no. And also I have people that are coming and they have also like illness or chronic disease or digestive problem. And they say, but will it change that? And my answer is, it is not 100% sure, because there is a point where the physical aspect has been too much damaged, and then you need really to care about the physical aspect. And of course, healing the psychological aspect underground can help. So in some case, I really see a change, how the person had the illness coming up, but sometimes it's too much in the physical aspect, and they need special care.
Yeah. And how is it? And do you also work with people? You mostly work with women, correct?
Yeah, I have also men that come to my pink website.
Well, I do have a question on that as well, but because like one, I'm gonna say the quote unquote first step is, to meet somebody that very matches, right? But then the next step, of course, is the relationship, or the beginning is the relationship, and of course there's different layers. After 3 months is the first honeymoon season is over, and then after 9 months another honeymoon season is over. And one of our teacher, Guru Jagat, she said yoga relationships are the greatest form of yoga, right? And I think that's such a great example or comparison. And so do you also support people in relationships? And sometimes there's challenging or rocky moments, or maybe there's also just times where we want to take it to the next level, deepen intimacy on whatever levels, and does that look a little bit different than when somebody comes to you as a single and wanting to meet somebody?
Yes, and it is exactly, you have different stages for me, and also how the wounding pop up in these stages. So the first stage you mentioned is the matching, and the matching here, if you feel it's not working in the matching, it has only one thing to do, and this is simple, is because you are attracted to somebody with your lizard brain, and the lizard brain make you attracted by somebody who has an opposite DNA as you, first principle. But second principle, the model you know.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if you feel you are attracted to the wrong person, doesn't mean the person is wrong, it just means that the model you have are not suiting you. So here, the working of the past will actually increase or change the matching, and also will change the attraction to who you are attracted. A lot of people, after doing the work, and myself included, suddenly you feel attracted by totally other people. And sometimes it's quite surprising. As for me, it was like 180.
Wow.
When I met my husband, so I knew something has changed. It was so obvious. Even my friends, they were telling, but how? And I was really, it was not a rational choice. I really felt it in my heart that it was him. So this is the first step. And then there is two other stages. So I call the commitment phase, when you start the relationship until you decide to live together for a certain period of time. Mm-hmm. And in this commitment phase, it's actually here very important to have your own boundaries, to show yourself your true self, and to try not to add a touch of chocolate side, as we say in German, because it's here mostly to see or choose and evaluate if you are compatible without changing the others. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit like, I show you my garden, I show you how I am naturally without any effort. Show me your garden, show me who you are without any effort. Mm-hmm. And we see if there is a compatibility. And in this phase, you have all the wound of, I show myself, I speak my truth, I act in alignment with that. And here, what I like to do is to add a bit more of consciousness in you choosing. So I always say, in this process, you choose with your heart. So you need to feel attraction, you need to feel connection and whatever, but you choose also with your head.
Yes.
And they have to be a yes here and a yes here.
Yeah.
And after, this is where I really totally agree with Guru Jagat, the highest yoga. The highest yoga for me come once you have decided to live or to have a long period together. So like living together, going for long travel, having kids, getting married, all these things, because at that moment you reach the safety you had as a child with your parent. And for me, I say it in other words, I say from that moment, the couple is a ground for personal development. Mm-hmm. Because with the time, and this is unavoidable, crisis will come. But what is a crisis is actually not two adults that have a crisis. It's two wounded child that try to heal. Yeah. But here, the really, I think the wonderful aspect of that is what you need to do to heal for yourself. Yeah. Helps at the same time your partner.
Yeah, it's amazing when you can experience that. I mean, I've just been experiencing this over the last few months, that the vulnerability of showing my quote unquote garden, and maybe not only the beautiful flowers, but also the muddy aspect of my garden. Yeah. And then how it's okay to show that. And then I'm like, okay. And that's where trust builds, right?
Yes.
And and it's such a, it's also a little bit of a roller coaster, because it's yeah, it's like, okay, can I, should I? And then, you do, because, it's like you said, you show who you are, right? And you want to have the same from the other person, that they can show who they are, right? And then if it's held, and if it's okay, it's so beautiful how this safe space can be created, because then it's okay, and then next time it's easier.
Yes. The name safe space,
yes,
it's the most important. And I always tell my clients, you have to know what you need to feel safe and to create safety so you can open up.
Yes. Yeah. And then it's that ground where you say the ground for personal development, right? And then you can, both of the parties, they have this ground, this fertile, nourishing ground where the seeds and the transformations can happen, and you can support each other. And then we circle back to, what Guru Jagat said, right? And that's so beautiful, right?
Yes. And when you know what you want for safety, when the other also express that, this is where you have this circle that is happening. And finally, people can take off the mask and be truly themselves.
Mm-hmm. And you touched on the aspect of wounding.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that? And I know you also have a little gift for the listeners. So, yeah, and I think you touched on it a little bit, but I want to point it out a little bit more.
Okay. So how we create the wounding?
Yes, and how it maybe shows up.
Okay. Let's take the example of the feminine side.
Mm-hmm.
So it can show in very different ways. So let's say you had your mother, she was with your father, but you saw your mother sacrificing herself for the family, for the couple. She was not taking care so much of her, and she was more giving than giving, and forgetting herself. This is a model. This is the first model you saw as a woman in a relationship. So if you are a woman and you saw that and you thought at that time, oh my God, this is that, to be in a relationship, mm-hmm. You can have two kinds of reaction in this situation. So you can register, okay, if I want to be in a relationship, I have to do the same. I have to sacrifice myself and to be in that pattern. Or you can think, my God, no way, I don't want. So you reject that. And then you reject not only this way to interact in a relationship, you also reject the feminine side of yourself.
Yeah.
So here you have, again, we have to look a bit more deeply to see what happened in your life. So do you have a self-rejection? How is your feminine side develop? To identify in which way you went. And sometimes you can either reject love, so you don't go into a relationship, and then you go into a relationship, but you repeat the same thing as your mother. So sometimes you have a mix pattern when you don't want, but you still repeat.
Yes.
And this is for all the wounds. It goes in the same way. You try, you repeat it, or you do the contrary, and then it's changing over time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I respond to your question.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. And you do have kind of a webinar about that. Is that correct?
Yes, I explain a bit more in depth how these patterns are created, how they are safe to the body. So you have a more deeper understanding.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. And we will link that in the show notes so the listeners can get access to that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I think we touched on a lot of things, and I think we could go on. But is there anything that you feel we missed that you think it's important to share or to touch on?
Yes. Maybe just to finish on the intimacy and the closeness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I would say this is something, I would call it the way of courage.
Yeah.
And you can, if you feel that you are having difficulties in getting closer or intimate to people, I think one tip I could give is to already try in the current relationship you have. Mm-hmm. And I like, I don't know if you like the book Connect.
I don't know.
From Bradford and Robin.
Okay.
They create a course in Stanford called Interpersonal Dynamics.
Okay, interesting.
And
find it and link it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book, and they say, you know, sometimes deepening the connection go through vulnerability and intimacy, and you can try and train and observe how you react to that, to tell 15% more from what you are usually saying in the context you are. So let's say at work, you have a colleague and you don't dare to explaining, but the last time you had mobbing at work and it was hard. Maybe you don't manage to say that, but what is the 15%? You could say, so you open it a bit and you give space to the other to open as well.
I think it's so true. And then we learn that we can trust, because we don't go all the way into the quote unquote fire, or what may feel like a fire, but we open up a little bit and test the water, and that can create trust to then open up another 50% and so on, right? Yes. And have like good experiences.
Yes. And you expand your safety.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that I was writing down before, and you mentioned it on one point in terms of attachment styles, and are you talking about the same attachment style? Oh, there is this book called Attached, and I can't think of who it is right now. And in there, they also describe the different attachment styles. Is it the same that you see? Or first of all, are you familiar with that book? Second of all, is these kind of the universal attachment styles, or are there different ones? And I think in there is the avoidant and the insecure, and then the safe. I think this is kind of what it is.
Yes, for me, I try to understand why. Yes. Are you avoiding? What is the fear behind that?
Yeah.
Because at the end, if you are not in a relationship, you try to avoid a relationship, because the unconscious price of being with somebody is much more dangerous than being single.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
At the end is that. So it's more the why, and it's more, for me, I go more into, is it the fear of rejection? Is it the space? Is it all the Lise Bourbeau wounds, for example? More to understand why you are avoiding, why you are feeling insecure, because these are more the consequences, the way you attach.
Yeah.
And I need to go
deeper.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Sandy. It was so good. And we will link everything that people can find you. And we'll also link all the books that we've mentioned. And thank you for being here.
Thanks for the exchange. As always, it is very nice, Andrina.
I love Sandy's deep approach, and that being happy in love is an inner work. And I also love how she says, to ask the why and to kind of keep digging deeper and to find the root of where the knot is. And you will find Sandy's contact details as well as all the links to her webinar on how a wound from the past is created, as well as a self-love meditation in the show notes. We also linked all the books we've mentioned, and I would like to read to you this part of Guru Jagat's book we were talking about, that relationships are the greatest form of yoga. So here it goes. Relationship is truly the greatest yoga. Yoga means the union of opposites or mastery of polarity. And a good relationship should be an expression of that in all of its aspects. It is also the greatest yoga because it tends to be the most confrontational yoga. It offers us the greatest and most intense possibilities for evolution and personal transformation at a rapid pace. Because relationships of any kind are microcosmic and macrocosmic simultaneously, they are one of the biggest pieces to a satisfying life.